The quiet before everything. For 3,000 years, the galaxy knew peace. No wars, no conflict, no weapons in the sky. Planets traded goods. Civilizations shared knowledge. It was a golden age. Children across the stars learned that war was something old, something dark from history, something that would never return. But Earth remembered. While others sang about peace, humans stayed quiet. They did not build big monuments. They did not join all the alliances. They just watched and waited. Somewhere deep inside, humanity knew. Peace doesn't last forever. In the far corner of the galaxy, near the old borders of the Zalan Empire, a strange signal echoed through space. It wasn't a distress call. It wasn't even a message. It was a movement, huge, fast, silent. Unseen by most, a fleet of alien ships left their hidden world. No lights, no flags, no warnings. These were not traders. They were soldiers. At Earth's Outer Defense Station Orbital Watch Point 17, a soft beep turned into a loud siren. Lieutenant Mark, a quiet man with gray eyes and a history full of battle medals, sat up in his chair. For years, nothing happened. The screens just showed stars. Quiet stars. But today, something moved. He looked at the data and smiled. Finally, he whispered. Across the station, sleepy officers rushed to their posts. Young recruits panicked. Some thought the system was broken, but the veterans knew better. Enemy ships? One asked. Mark nodded. A fleet. And they're not here to talk. Another officer, a younger woman named Nora, stared at the screen. Why now? Why after all this time? Mark stood up and walked toward the large window. Outside, stars blinked like tiny fires in the dark. It was always going to happen, he said calmly. Peace is a dream, but dreams fade. On the alien flagship, General Raleigh of the Tharkin Empire sat in his command chair. His eyes were cold. His voice was sharp. We strike fast. Earth is not ready. They are weak, lazy, soft. They think peace is strength. We will show them what real power looks like. His officers cheered. They believed Earth had forgotten how to fight. But they were wrong. Back on Earth, under the mountains of North Range, a hidden control room came alive. Lights flickered on. AI systems woke up. Human commanders read the alerts. Old war codes flashed again after thousands of years. General Evans stood beside a long black table. So, he said slowly, they finally made a move. Another officer looked worried. Should we inform the council? Even shook his head. No, they already know. And they also know what happens next. He tapped a button. Somewhere on Mars, weapons powered up. On the moon, ancient turrets rotated toward the stars. On Europa, deep under the ice, launch pods opened for the first time in centuries. But the galaxy didn't know this. The galaxy still believed in peace. When the alien fleet entered neutral space, many observers watched with confusion. Why were they armed? Why so many ships? The Galactic Council sent a message to Earth. Do not engage. We will handle it diplomatically. Earth didn't answer, not because they were scared, because they were smiling. In a dark hangar on Earth's Pacific Command shipyard, a group of old soldiers gathered around a table. One of them, a woman with scars across her face, picked up a dusty metal box. Inside was a medal from Earth's last war. She smiled. They thought we forgot, she said softly. Let's remind them. Her team nodded. In the outer zone. Watchpoint 17 prepared for first contact. Mark looked at the screen again. The enemy fleet was close now. Too close. Still no message? Nora asked. Mark shook his head. They're not here to talk. He typed in a short code. The station's defense grid powered up. Energy flowed into the cannons. Drones moved into Position. Nora took a deep breath. So this is it? Mark turned to her. No, this is just the beginning. Then he smiled. Asterisk the first strike, the alien fleet moved fast, too fast. Without warning, they crossed the line of peace. The Galactic Council had marked that area as neutral. But the fleet didn't care. They came with weapons ready. Their leader, General Ralek, had one goal: strike Earth before it could react. On the alien command ship, Ralek stood tall, watching the stars move past. Send the first wave, he ordered. Destroy the outer stations. Show them we mean business. Moments later, 3 battleships broke formation and turned toward Watchpoint 17, the first defense station in their path. Inside Watchpoint 17, red lights flashed. The system detected. Incoming weapons. They've locked on us, Nora said. Her voice tense. Mark didn't flinch. He stood calmly, arms behind his back, eyes on the screen. Shield up, power to main cannon. But sir, one technician said, we only have half the reactor online. We've never, Mark interrupted. We don't need full power to make a point. Outside the station, a hum began to rise. Blue energy shields wrapped around the outer shell like a glowing bubble. The first alien missile hit seconds later and bounced off. The crew inside felt the vibration. Nora looked at the damage screen. Shields holding, Mark smiled. Let's return the favor. In space, the alien ships moved with confidence. Their commanders had fought small wars before, but never against humans. They thought Earth would be an easy target. They were wrong. Watchpoint 17's main cannon charged. It was old tech, but human tech, and that meant it still worked. Brutally. Well, Mark gave the order. Fire. A single blue beam cut through space like a blade. It hit the lead alien ship dead center. The explosion was massive, bright, silent, and final. Within seconds, nothing was left of the ship but dust. The other. 2 alien ships slowed down. One turned slightly. The second cannon fired. Now there was only one ship. General Ralek received the report just moments later. 3 ships destroyed? He asked, staring at the hologram in disbelief. From one station? Yes, General. The officer replied. They only fired twice. The room went quiet. No survivors? None, sir. Ralek's hands tightened into fists. Send the next wave. Bigger ships. Crush that station. Now. Back at Watchpoint 17, the crew felt the pressure building. Dozens of new enemy ships were approaching. The scans showed heavy armor, advanced tech, and swarm fighters. They're serious now, Nora said. Mark nodded. Good. She stared. At him. Why do you keep smiling? Mark turned toward the window and watched the stars. Because they're giving us what we've waited for. He pointed toward the edge of the screen. Something new had just appeared. A Terran battleship, silent and black, had exited warp space. It didn't announce itself. It didn't speak. It just floated there like a shadow. They sent in there. Hammer, Mark whispered. Nora's eyes widened. The prototype? I thought it was decommissioned. Mark's voice was low. That's what they wanted everyone to believe. The alien fleet began to surround the station. And then the Terran. Ship moved. Without warning, it unleashed a wall of missiles and drone fighters. The sky lit up like a festival of fire and fury. Alien ships exploded one by one, some without even firing a shot. Ralek's command ship watched the horror from a distance. What is that thing? He whispered. A human signal came through. Just 2 words. Try harder. Inside the command center on Earth, General Ivan watched the feed with sharp eyes. The Council had told him to wait, to be patient. But Earth had waited enough. He turned to his aide. Send a message to the Deep Fleet. Tell them this isn't a test. This is real. Meanwhile, The galaxy began to take notice. Broadcasts of the destroyed alien fleet spread like fire. People across planets stared at their screens. Most had never seen a warship. Now they were watching one human ship destroy an entire armada. Questions filled the air. Is Earth that strong? Why didn't we know? What else are the humans hiding? And, above all, why were they smiling? Laughter in the fire. The battlefield was a mess of burning metal and drifting wreckage. Alien ships spun out of control, breaking apart in silence. Fire danced in the vacuum of space, bright and beautiful, even in destruction. The once proud fleet of the Tharkin Empire was now shattered across the stars. On board the Terran ship Hammer, Commander Riven watched it all from the main deck. The ship's lights glowed low, cold blue, as systems tracked every enemy movement. A young officer looked up from his console. Commander, enemy fleet is in retreat. Riven didn't move. His eyes stayed on the screen, following the trails of fleeing ships. And yet, he said calmly, we've only just begun. At watchpoint 17, Nora leaned back in her chair, stunned. She had never seen anything like this, not in training, not in history videos, not in stories. That one Terran ship, just one, had destroyed over 30 alien warships in under 10 minutes. She turned to Mark. How did we do this? Mark didn't answer right away. He simply chuckled under his breath. It wasn't mocking. It was nostalgic. We're not strong because we love war, he said softly. We're strong because we never forgot what war really is. Nora's brow tightened. But they said humanity became soft after peace. Mark smirked. They were wrong. On the alien command ship, General Raleigh stared in disbelief. His bridge crew was quiet now. The screens showed nothing but static and debris. How? He whispered. A communication officer broke the silence. We've received a message from the human ship. Raleigh's eyes narrowed. Put it on. The screen flickered. A human soldier appeared. He was older, in black armor, with a red stripe across the chest. He had a tired face and a wide smile. He said just one line. This isn't even our real fleet. Then the feed cut out. Raleigh felt cold in his bones for the first time in his life. Across the galaxy, people watched in silence. The council tried to spin it. They called the attack unprovoked and tragic. They said Earth had overreacted. But the public didn't believe them. Clips of the human fleet's calm, tactical destruction spread fast. So did the smiling faces of their commanders. The galaxy had lived in peace for 3,000 years. Now, in just hours, fear had returned, and it had a human face. Back on Earth, in the secret command center under Mount Atlas, General Ivan stood before a massive screen. Reports flowed in, new scans, alien troop movement. Panic spreading, he turned to his team. Prepare Phase 2. One officer hesitated. But sir, we haven't even shown them the prime forces yet. Even looked at the stars on the screen. They don't need to see everything. Just enough to remember us. Meanwhile, Commander Riven gave his next order. Track the remaining fleet. Don't fire. Let them run. The young officer blinked. Let them go? Riven smiled. Let them tell the story. Outside the ship, Terran drones hovered over the battlefield, collecting pieces of alien tech, tagging ship cores, scanning the bodies. Every piece of data mattered. Every move was part of a bigger game, and humanity had played it before. Later that night, back at watchpoint 17, Nora stood alone at the viewing window. Stars shimmered in silence once again. She heard footsteps. It was Mark. They're gone? She asked. For now, he replied. But they'll return. Yes, he said. But next time, they'll remember who we are. She looked at him. You smiled, even when they attacked. Why? Mark looked at the stars. Because I knew. Something they didn't, he said softly. We were never afraid of war. We just hoped they'd never ask for it. In a nearby system, the alien survivors limped back to their empire. Fires burned inside their ships. Morale was gone. And the words of the human commander echoed in every mind. This isn't even our real fleet. And somewhere, in the dark humanity, smiled again. Asterisk the hidden arsenal. The galaxy was quiet again, but not peaceful. Across hundreds of planets. Alien governments held emergency meetings. Military leaders watched recordings of the Terran ship Hammer destroying an entire fleet. They studied every second, every missile, every pattern, and no one could understand one thing. Why did humans hold back? They had the power. They had the chance to destroy everything. But they didn't. That's what scared them most. Far away, on the dark side of Jupiter's largest moon, Ganymede, a secret base powered up for the first time in 2,000 years. Its name was simple, Vault 01. Inside the base, giant metal doors hissed open. Red lights blinked. Rows of weapons came to life. Machines older than empires turned on again. No sound left the moon. No warning was sent. Earth didn't tell anyone. They didn't need to. In Earth's deep war room under the Atlas Mountains, General Evans stood before a black wall. On it, glowing red, were the words, Hidden Arsenal Protocol Active. His top commanders stood quietly around him. How much should we reveal? One asked. Ivan didn't look away from the wall. Not everything. Just enough to remind them. We are still Deathworlders. He turned and pointed to a hologram. It showed 12 Terran ships hidden inside an asteroid belt. They're next. Meanwhile, in alien space, General Ralek returned home in shame. His people, the Tharkian Empire, were furious. Some called him a fool. Others demanded more war. But Ralek had seen something no one else had. They didn't fight with full strength. He said to the High Council, that wasn't even their real force. A council elder leaned forward. Then what was it? Ralek answered with trembling lips. A smile before the storm. Back in orbit near Earth, the Terran ship, Hammer, received new orders. Commander Riven read them silently. Then he looked at his crew. We're heading to the belt. Time to wake the old ghosts. The crew didn't ask questions. They just nodded. Because every soldier in the Terran fleet had been trained for one truth. Earth never threw its first punch, but when it did, the punch ended wars. As Hammer entered the asteroid field, automated drones scanned their codes. Slowly, huge rocks moved aside. Hidden beneath them were warships the size of cities, black, silent, deadly. These weren't ordinary ships. These were Titan class, only a few ever built, each one with enough firepower to erase a solar system. Their names were carved in steel. TSS, Obsidian Flame. TSS, Quiet Thunder. TSS, Final Breath, all hidden. Already, on the alien world of Rether, news of Earth's silence became more terrifying than their weapons. Fear spread like fire. One alien scholar said on a public channel, we thought humans were extinct, or soft, or lost in peace. But now, I think they're just waiting for a reason. Others didn't believe it until they received a small package. No message, no threat, just a piece of wreckage from their own fleet neatly cleaned and delivered by a Terran drone. The message was clear. We could have kept it. But we're not thieves. We're just reminding you we were here. In Watchpoint 17, Nora stared at the newest scan. Titan-class signals were waking across the system. Ships no one talked about. Power levels never recorded before. She turned to Mark. Why hide them? Mark smiled. Because peace was real. But Earth always prepares for when it isn't. She whispered, how many ships do we have? Mark answered. Softly enough. The stars watched in silence. The galaxy had broken. 3,000 years of peace. But now they realized something terrifying. Humanity hadn't forgotten war. They had just been waiting for someone to start it. And they were still smiling. Asterisk. Answers from the past. The galaxy wanted answers. Every planet, every empire, every ruler who had once ignored Earth now asked the same question. Why are humans like this? Why did Earth hide weapons so powerful? Why did they not speak? Why did they smile during war? Messages flooded the Galactic Council chambers. Demands for action. Demands for peace. Demands for understanding. The Council sent a direct message to Earth. Explain your aggression. Explain your silence. Explain your smile. On Earth, inside the United Terran Command, the message was received. General Ivan stood before the council screen. Behind him were war officers, historians, and veterans, many of them older than the current peace. He pressed a button on the console. I think it's time they remember, he said quietly. The file was called Last Flame Protocol. A live. Transmission began. Across the galaxy, screens flickered on. People of all species stopped to watch. Shops paused trading. Ships froze in orbit. Children gathered near family screens. What they saw changed everything. It was a video. Old, dusty footage recorded in black and white. From Earth's final global war 3,000 years ago, the video showed fire raining from the skies. Giant machines rolling through burning cities. Soldiers carrying children out of rubble. Families crying. Leaders falling. Millions lost. The narrator's voice was slow, calm, and human. This was Earth. Before peace, a planet of endless conflict. We fought over land, power, resources, pride, and we burned our world many times. The screen shifted. Massive craters, melting ice caps, collapsed nations. Until one day we stopped, not because we grew wiser, but because we had nothing left to destroy. The next part of the video shocked the galaxy. It showed the first time Earth united, not for power, but for survival. The Great War had ended with a global pact. No more wars on Earth. But Earth would never forget how to fight. So they stored it away. Deep. We built machines not to use them, but to remember how fast peace can disappear. We trained not to conquer, but to make sure no one could ever conquer us again. We smiled, not because we enjoy war, but because we've seen worse. We've survived worse. And we're still here. The last shot of the video showed a human soldier standing alone on a battlefield, dust in the wind. A city behind him in flames. He turned slowly to the camera and smiled. Silence spread across alien worlds. No one spoke. Some turned off the video. Others watched it twice. Some cried. Some grew fearful. A few strangely felt respect. On the Tharkin homeworld, General Rallick watched with shaking hands. Stood up from his chair. We attacked that, he said quietly. We thought they were weak. An aide spoke. Should we prepare for more war? Rallick shook his head slowly. No, you don't fight people who smile and fire. You pray they stay peaceful. In Watch Point 17, Nora watched the feed until the very end. She looked at Mark. That's the truth, isn't it? We were always like this. Mark nodded slowly. We just hoped no one would ever ask us to prove it again. She turned to the stars, but they asked. Mark's eyes were cold. Yes, and now we answer. At the Galactic Council, many leaders met in emergency session. Some wanted to punish Earth. Some wanted to ban them. Some wanted to ally with them quickly. One old counselor stood and said, they are not monsters. They are memories. And they never wanted to be woken. But it was too late. Earth was awake. and still smiling. Asterisk. The turn of the tide. The galaxy had made a mistake. They broke the silence. They shattered the peace. And now, Earth was no longer quiet. Across a dozen star systems, old Terran war signals were activated. These weren't normal codes. They were deep-wave orders, silent, encrypted, and impossible to trace. But to those who had once served the Terran Defense Network, the meaning was clear. Wake up. It's time. On a moon near the edge of the Juno system, a bar full of retired soldiers suddenly went quiet. Their implants buzzed. No one said a word. They just stood up, walked out, and returned to the ships they hadn't touched in years. Icy world of Vora 9, a hidden hangar opened. 3 black stealth frigates lifted into the cold wind, without a single engine roar. On Mars, in the red dust, children watched as an entire mountain slowly opened, and something massive rose from it, its name carved into its side. TSS Emberlight, Titan-class dreadnought. At Earth Command, General Ivan watched a star map. Red dots lit up, then orange, then gold. Each dot was a Terran response team. Quiet, deadly, ready. He didn't smile this time. He just gave the order. Deploy. In the Tharkin Empire, General Rallick received a scan report. Alien scouts had picked up strange readings, many fast, and all moving toward the center of their territory. Rallick stared at the numbers. It didn't make sense. No race could move. That many ships at once. He whispered, "How can they be everywhere?" An officer replied with shaking hands, "Because they were already there, sir." Across the galaxy, Earth's allies began to rise. Not all species feared humans. Some remembered the old days, when Earth helped rebuild their broken worlds, when Earth fed their children, fixed their water systems, gave shelter when no one else cared. These allies had stayed quiet, but now they answered the call. From the forests of Yanta Prime, jungle scouts activated ancient rifles given to them by Terran Command centuries ago. On the water world of Kylos, sleek sea vessels emerged, Terran-made. Fast and armed, the Council panicked. Emergency meetings began. Some leaders called Earth too dangerous. Others begged Earth for peace. A few tried to hide, but one alien historian stood and said, "This is not invasion. This is correction." They warned us with smiles. We answered with weapons. Now they are teaching us again. Meanwhile, on the Terran battleship Hammer, Commander Riven received new coordinates. Sector Delta 17, the officer said. 3 Tharkin planets. Lightly guarded. Riven nodded. Send them a message. First. A short broadcast was sent. It showed only this: a human child holding a flower. Then it burned away, revealing Earth's black and red crest, and a single word: return. On those planets, fear spread. Civilians demanded retreat. Commanders called for backup. But nothing came. The Terran fleet arrived, silently, black ships against purple skies. They didn't fire first. They waited. The Tharkin commanders hesitated. They remembered the video. They remembered the smile. They surrendered. At Watchpoint 17, Nora watched the galactic news feeds. They're surrendering without a fight, she said. Mark nodded. Because they've finally seen what peace cost us. She asked, "Is this victory?" Mark looked at the stars. "No," he said. "This is the tide turning. Now they know. We never wanted to lead. We only wanted to be left alone," she whispered. "And now?" Mark's voice was firm. "Now we lead." The galaxy had changed. Earth was no longer just a planet. It was now a symbol. Of fear, of strength, of memory. And above all, of what happens when peace is broken. Asterisk. A smile that ended war peace came quietly. Not with a treaty. Not with applause, but with silence. After weeks of Earth's silent advance, the galaxy finally understood. Humanity did not come to rule. Humanity came to end what never should have started. And they did it without shouting, without threats, without hate. They did it by reminding the galaxy who they were. On the central world of the Tharkeen Empire, leaders gathered in an underground hall. Their military was broken, their ships lost. And worst of all, they knew why. Because they had started it. Because they pushed the ones who smiled. They sent a final message to Earth. We surrender. We beg peace. Tell us your terms. Earth replied with only a video. No demands. No warnings. Just a simple recording. It showed Earth from space. Blue oceans, white clouds, green land. Calm and beautiful. A voice spoke. We are not your enemies. We are not your rulers. But we are your memory. Do not forget what peace costs. Do not forget what happens when you call on fire and expect only smoke. And the last thing shown was a human child. She stood in a field, wind in her hair. Smiling. The screen faded to black. The Tharkin Council didn't speak. One elder whispered, "They could have destroyed us." Another said, "They still can." The leader of the council stood slowly. "Then let's make sure they never need to." Across the galaxy, Terran fleets returned to silence. Titan-class warships disappeared into asteroid fields. Defense stations powered down. Commanders went home. The world watched in disbelief. Earth had won, but took nothing. No planets, no thrones. No tribute. Just respect. And silence. At Watchpoint 17, Nora sat with Mark by the viewing window. Stars blinked beyond the glass. Peace had returned, but it felt different now. Why? Didn't we finish them? She asked softly. Mark looked at the stars. Because we're not monsters. He paused. We smile. Not because we like war, but because we survived it. And we don't want to go back. In the council hall, new laws were written. Rules about war. Rules about Earth. And one permanent record. Never attack the humans unless you're ready to lose everything, including yourself. They named it the Terran Accord. A warning, a promise. Legend, back on Earth, General Even stood outside the command center for the first time in years. The wind was cool. Birds flew overhead. An aide approached. "Sir, the council wants to speak again." Even shook his head with a soft smile. "Let them wait." He turned to the horizon. "We gave them peace again." The aide hesitated. "And if they break it again?" Evan's smile didn't fade. "Then we remind them again." We never run out of reminders. The galaxy never forgot this time. They wrote songs. They painted murals. They told their children stories, not of monsters, but of humans. Of quiet soldiers. Silent fleets. And of a race that smiled during fire. And stopped a war not with fear, but with memory. And so, the stars turned. The galaxy healed. And Earth returned to its silence. Still strong, still ready, still smiling. Asterisk.